GM, everyone. I'm your host, Chef Tony P.
And I'm your host, Doodlifts, and welcome to the new TGID series, Meet the Doodles Team. We felt like it was important to get to know the team as people and to gain some valuable insight into what makes the pastel cartel so very special.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We really hope you enjoy what we have in store. We've pinned the Spaces link up to the top. For anybody that has questions that they'd like to ask Julian, please post them in the comments on that tweet. With whatever time that we have at the end of the show, we'll read some of them off for him to give you some answers.
All right. Without further ado, we'd like to give a warm welcome to our very special guest, the CEO of the Doodles NFT company, Julian Holguin. Welcome, Julian. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be on and hang for a little while.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
awesome. Yeah, like I said, we're super glad you're here, and we just wanted to kind of give ourselves and the community an opportunity to kind of get to know a little bit more of your background, get to know the person who is Julian behind the PFP. And so I think, Tony, did you want to get us started?
Yes, absolutely. And I obviously know there's a lot of Doodles maxis here. We're going to kind of go through just about Julian's life, professional, educational, and then we will get down into Doodles. So hold on to your spotted or leopard britches and we will get there. But yeah, Julian, so let's just go ahead and start off down a trip down memory lane. Could you tell us a little bit about like where you grew up?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in New York, county and town, little outside of New York City. So New York City was really the city that, we kind of all tried to flock to after college. But little town called Pound Ridge, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a incredible place to grow up. Like there were people like ride bikes, like the town was very walkable. Like it was very, I don't want to call it sheltered, but it was like away from major highways. It was just like a really kind of nice place to grow up for a kid. But yeah, grew up in Pound Ridge and lived there pretty much my entire life until I got shipped off to college.
Nice. And like your last name Holguin, what is like that ethnically?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So my father is from the Dominican Republic. He immigrated here when he was, I think, 16 years old. My mom was born in America, but her family originally from Italy. But the Holguin name comes from my dad, and the way that you'd pronounce it down there would be Holguin, but it
Mm-hmm.
kind of just for me morphed to Holguin over the years.
Nice. No, I hear you. Okay, Holguin. That's the alpha.
That's the
Now, as you can see, like my name here is Chef Tony P. I am by no means a chef, but I am definitely a big food guy. And I was curious, when you were growing up, I think it's kind of cool, just to think. So you have like Italian, Dominican, and then you're up in the Northeast. Were there any like iconic meals that like your dad or your mom or aunt or uncle made that were like really special to you in childhood, or like that you and your wife still rock today?
Oh yeah, I mean my upbringing was, chock full of incredible cooks. My grandmother, my mom's mom, was a fantastic cook, and my mom and her sister, my aunt, kind of that trait got passed down to them, so they were fantastic cooks. So we just constantly grew up with the best Italian food that you could get. So home cooked meals, dinners, holidays, and everything like that was just like you were full to the brim after. But yeah, I mean, like we were, chicken parmesan, ravioli, like all of that stuff. And then when my mom would actually make Dominican food, it was incredible too. Like she picked that stuff up, even though she didn't grow up experiencing that really well. But my parents actually split when I was young. So I would
Hmm.
spend, most of my time with my mom and her family, but then, on the weekends and, for other occasions, I'd be with my dad's family. So I'd literally go from like, these big Italian family dinners to also being in like, apartments in Washington Heights and, in the Bronx eating, like sancocho and Dominican food and, rice and beans and plátanos and all that. And like we just, I had like a very diverse, upbringing when it came to just like culture and food. But food has been a really, really big part of my family. So much so, like, my mom, she couldn't be called grandma, so we actually call her Mima. And she has a shop called Mima's Bake Shop. It's like an Etsy bakery. So like
Hmm.
banana breads and muffins and all that. And yeah, I mean, it's been, yeah, I'd say like Italian food, Dominican food, chicken parm, pasta, all that stuff. Like those are definitely the go-tos, and the recipes are going to be passed down, hopefully, from generation to generation.
Now,
That's
now did
awesome.
did
Do you?
Rouse make its way into any of those recipes?
People grill me. Even Austin subtweets me for the Rouse analogy. Um, but dude, by the way, it's Rayo's, and Rayo's is
Nice.
actually
Put
a
some respect on
yeah,
his
yeah,
name.
come
Yeah.
on. And it is actually a fantastic supplement if you're not going to make your own sauce from scratch. Like it's incredible. And if you've been to the restaurant, I've only been once. It kind of gives you like a taste of that experience that you had, and you can kind of keep it at home. But yeah, that sauce is incredible.
Okay, Rayo's. Rayo's is the alpha. Good to.
Have you guys seen it at the store? Like you go supermarket, like you see it on the shelves, yeah?
I'm sure I have. I don't know if I've ever bought a jar, but I'm sure I have.
Can someone please, like, by the way, this is like an incredible plug for Rails, but can someone like throw it in
Yeah.
Discord and actually show people what I'm talking about so they don't think I'm just some crazy person that compares the brand to pasta sauce?
Yo,
No, hey,
what the heck
I
is
no,
going
I
on
re-
in this
I
space?
saw Austin tweet it the other day. Yeah. Here. I got it right here. I'll pin it to the top.
Evan's like, what do you
I,
like?
I I
What?
didn't
Where?
know
Doodles, pasta sauce?
I
What's
didn't know
happening?
I didn't know what was going on in here. I was like, I'm gonna come hang out, and I'm like, what the heck?
this is a this space is brought to you by Rayo's pasta
Yeah,
sauce.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, so funny. No, that's awesome, Julian. That's really cool to hear. Just kind of the story of your upbringing and how big of a role that food and culture played in that. Especially growing up in New York. That's so cool. I've got a lot of family up in the Northeast, so very cool. Yeah, I think you mentioned yeah that growing up in Pound Ridge was great, and then you got shipped off to college. Where did you end up going to school?
School in Philadelphia called LaSalle University. I got recruited to play baseball there. It great school. Like Philadelphia is such a good town that I feel like people don't really talk about enough. But yeah, I did 4 years at LaSalle. Couldn't wait to get out of school and move to the big city, New York, and start my career. But I loved it there, and I made some of the best friends of my life at LaSalle. So that's yeah, Philly for 4 years was really where I held college down.
That's awesome. You got recruited to play ball. That's a big deal. You must have been pretty good.
Yeah, baseball was a very big part of my life growing up. I played competitively from a pretty young age, and that was a lot of my summers and springs. Like my dad would be, kind of like lugging me all over the country. We'd be driving from like New York to South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. We went to San Diego, and we played in all these like big tournaments. And it was like a dream to be a professional baseball player one day. And my dad always says, if you worked a little bit harder, you could have been, but you were a little too lazy with baseball. And I'm like, okay, man. But it
Thanks,
was
Dad. Thanks,
it
Dad.
was a yeah.
Everyone's a critic.
Everyone's a critic, right? Oh, and it's that easy, pro baseball, no big deal. But yeah, baseball was a huge part of my life. Yankee fan, New York, grew up going to Yankee games. Like it's something that I hope my kids get into one day, also.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, once you once you graduated LaSalle, so did you end up moving back to the big city? And when after that did you kind of break into the entertainment scene? Like how did that come to be?
Yeah, yeah. Moved to Manhattan. Well, I moved back home for the summer after college, and then I moved to Manhattan as soon as I could get a job. Because you got to be able to pay big city rent, and ended up getting a job as a sales associate at the New York Daily News. The big New York newspaper. and ended up living in a fifth floor walk up with four friends. So it was just four guys sharing one bathroom in a not very large apartment. But that's New York, man. When you're kind of like coming up in the city together, working really hard, all trying to make it. It was some of the best experience in my life, but it was definitely, definitely aren't the conditions that I aspire to every day.
Location, location, location.
That's
Okay,
it.
that's something. It's interesting. There's something special about New York that just has that kind of attitude. Like, and I just think you don't find it in a lot of other areas. Like, did you all kind of consciously have like this? We're trying to like make it, like have this hunger and drive. Like, did you already always have aspirations like that?
I did. Yeah. I mean, even when I was in high school, I like my favorite subjects were like sports marketing and, the business classes. And then that kind of translated to college. So I always kind of knew that I wanted to be in business. I didn't really know what at the time. But I feel like everybody should live in New York for a little time in their life, just because I feel like it hardens you in a way that other cities might not. And I have a little experience because I've lived in other cities. And New York, like you can't really fake it there. Like you really have to, you really have to be on your grind. You really have to, like, I feel like you can find yourself in New York in a way that you might not be able to in other cities. And it's not just about the diversity of the people. It's not just about like the fact that it is New York and it's, one of the biggest cities in the world, but it's just something about like the energy, the culture, the history, like it's all that intangible stuff that's really like hard to put your finger on. But I don't know that I would be where I'm at without having lived in New York and really being part of that lifestyle. Like it created so many good habits for me. I loved it. I was, super hesitant to actually move. But when you start having a family, I think some of your goals change. But I feel like if I didn't have kids, or even if I was only planning on having one kid, I don't know that I ever would have moved out of New York. But yeah, I mean, I really feel like everybody kind of has that, like, even if it's not like a shared ambition to make money or be an executive or an entrepreneur or whatever it is, it's just like you want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and make it. And I feel like everybody in New York kind of has that same feeling, and making it changes from person to person. It doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Um, but it's also one of those cities where I feel like people don't care who you are or where you came from. Like if you're living and working and doing your thing in New York, like there's respect that's on that no matter what. Like you could be on a street corner and there could be a billionaire and a janitor just having a conversation and neither of them giving a crap who the other is. You're just like, in that moment in time. So I loved New York, and I'll always like, actually going back to it now, visiting, it feels so surreal. When I actually spend any time there, I almost like appreciate it in a different way now. But like literally when I cross the bridge coming in from the airport, I feel like it's like this jolt of energy, like I'm home.
That's really cool. I mean, you definitely. I mean, I can tell that it is like holds a sacred place to you. And I think this is a little bit of a high level take on New York. They do have very hard water there, right? That's why they say they have the best bagels and pizza. So it just might be something in the water about all that
I
ambition
can
that you have.
I can confirm the pizza statement. The pizza statement really is, people don't get it, and people think maybe it's just a saying, but the pizza really is best in New York, and it's not even close. I would challenge anybody to come up here and say that any other city has anything remotely close. There's nothing like it.
I no. Okay, I can attest.
Rest in peace,
I can
Chicago.
attest to this. This is a very strange connection, but Phoenix, Arizona has a large new expat New York population because the Witness Protection Program at some point decided that they should ship all the mafiosos out to the desert. And so they ended up here. And so there's a lot of pizza joints, and they literally import their water from New York State because they think it's that important.
Wow. That's yeah. And the bagels too. You just know. And by the way, Chicago actually has good pizza. It's just the New York thing is very different. It's as good as you'd get in Italy. Right? Probably better, just the style, but yeah.
Don't tell. Now, I think Julian, I think you mentioned something about how kids kind of change a little bit of trajectory. I think Tony, you had some questions about that.
Yeah, so I was just kind of curious, like I know that your wife and beautiful kids. I remember we were at Doodle Putt and it was like I think your son's birthday and you're like still out there in the thick of it. And I do know that you're definitely a family man. And I was kind of curious, with you, I mean you've had a very successful career, and I'd say with Doodles you're kind of just getting started. But what's kind of like the legacy that you want to leave for your kids and your family name moving on?
A great question. Look, for me, I've always said one of my I've always wanted to be a father. I've always wanted to have a family. That was kind of instilled in me very early on, that family was everything. And now that I have kids, it actually has meaning, right? I think once you have kids, you start to, and any parent knows this, but once they come out, you start to look at the world very differently. And all I want is for my kids to be proud of me. I want them to grow up in an environment that they're safe. I want them to grow up in an environment where like they can learn as much as they possibly can. They're empowered, they're free, they're taking the most that they can out of life, knowing that you only have one life, and trying to, be the best person that they ultimately can be. I think we're living in really interesting times, right? Like we have this question frequently: is the world craziest right now, or does it just seem that way because our access to information is abundant and constant? And I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. But how do you set kids up for success in this kind of environment? And parenting is really hard. Parenting when you're an executive is hard. Parenting, period, is hard. And my wife and I both work, so it's not like it's not an easy thing to figure out how to be the best parent you can be while also like providing the most you possibly can for them. But yeah, I mean, I really just want my kids to be proud of who their father is, to be proud of what our family represents, and ultimately be good and kind people, whatever that means for them, whatever they want to do in life. As long as they're good people, as long as they're kind people, that's really all I can hope for.
Yeah, that's epic. Yeah, just kind of like the freedom to choose what they want to do. I think that's really admirable. Kind of just getting to leave them a better
Oh, Tony,
opportunity
it looks
growing up well. And I guess maybe just down like a path of maybe like philanthropy wise, like I think that you have a pretty big platform. Is there like any particular like causes or anything that are like near and dear to you specifically?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so personally, we do a lot of internal philanthropy, meaning within our family. We have family from the Dominican Republic, we have family in Colombia, and as far as where we sit relative to the rest of our family, we're doing incredibly well. So there's a lot of people that need help directly in our family, and we try and do as much as we possibly can to set them up for success. So, without going into too much detail, but like helping family out with, things that are, luxuries in their countries, but not, necessarily like a luxury in the United States. And, just again, making sure that we're, all of all of what we've been able to create for ourselves is being shared with our families is kind of our direct way of helping, because there's a lot of people that need it. And, I'd say in work and business, we're still figuring out what that means at Doodles. But in my previous roles, it was a major thing that we championed, across the board. So we've done things like, underprivileged, like women's representation from underprivileged communities and helping them communicate with entertainment industry leaders, scholarship programs. There was this thing at the Hollywood Reporter called, the Women in Entertainment Mentorship Program, where we basically, over the course of the several years that I was there, we gave something like over 200 or 300 scholarships away. That was a really, really incredible program. We did something with Alicia Keys when I was at Billboard for our Women in Music platform that was based on getting more women in front of the camera. No, sorry, behind the camera. So producers, sound engineers, like diversity in music creators is actually not as prevalent as one might think. So, working with girls as they're young to actually try and help them get into some of these roles that they may not have had, a chance to if it wasn't for the program that we created. And then one of the things that's particularly interesting to my wife and I is just kids and children and helping mothers that might not have the means, ultimately set them up for success and raise their babies the right way. So that's some of the stuff that's near and dear to our heart. We don't really have an official point of view on Doodles on where we're going to lean in, but it's very core to our strategy right now, and stuff you'll probably start to learn about soon.
No, that's really cool. Looks like Tony's having some connection issues, so we'll bring him back up in a moment. But I think it's cool to hear that like you have this internal kind of compass that guides your like family philanthropy. I think that's really cool to hear that. And it's just kind of a worldly take. Like, we have all these extended family members that don't have access to things we do. I think that speaks to you as a person really well. So I think that's just great. And I'm excited.
And I think like with us, some of it is really just, when you give to some of these programs, like these things are really big endeavors to find out if your money's actually making an impact, if you're actually, creating any sort of positive outcome by donating money to certain things. Like, you're putting a lot of trust in people that organize these things. And there are enough people that are so close to home for us that really need help that we feel like we can make a bigger impact.
Julian, you were basically just saying like there's enough work to be done close to home, I think is where you left off.
Yeah. And the only other point was just, like an individual with some of these bigger programs might not have as much of an impact as a business. So my wife and I really do try and hit it from both ends. But yeah, that's definitely work that's needed to be done.
And I guess now the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's talk Doodles.
Let's talk.
We haven't kicked down our doors. So, like the chicken or the egg, I kind of got to ask, what came first, the doodle or the position as CEO?
Wait, what does that mean?
Did you were you a holder first, or did you join the team and then you got your doodle?
Oh, so good question. I was doing some very unofficial consulting for the guys dating back to January of last year, just helping them kind of navigate entertainment and music and, this world that they obviously got thrust into. And upon that, they hooked me up with my first doodle. I don't know if you all remember it, but it was purple hair, yellow face, had the purple shades, blue backpack, green hoodie. But that was my first doodle. So just in return for doing some work for them, we just worked out getting comped in doodles, and that was kind of the start of it.
It's like getting paid in Trident layers, but getting paid in doodles. That actually brings us to our next question that we wanted to ask is like, whenever you did first meet the team, like what was your impression? Like first impressions of Scott, Evan, Jordan, like, I don't know, tell us what you thought first time you met him.
Yeah. So I met Evan and Mackenzie first actually. And it was just very clear immediately that they had a vision and they had a very good handle on the brand and who they wanted to be, which was awesome, right? Like the thing that really intrigued me about Doodles to start was the art. And, I think the NFT space as a whole was not the thing that I was really like that interested in. It was really more about who was doing incredible work with this new technology. And Doodles struck me as one that was already doing really interesting work, already kind of already had their own lane in the space, and they were doing things, that others weren't really doing. And the trajectory and the potential and the ceiling that they had just seemed so high to me. So when I met Evan, it definitely affirmed that a bit. And after that, who did I meet next? I think it was Scott when he did a. They were in Los Angeles, and Scott had done an installation at the LACMA with Interscope Records. And I was going just, because of my previous role at Billboard, but I met Scott there, and Scott and I got into this like crazy cerebral conversation about the universe and life and the brain and all this other stuff. And I was just like, whoa, he's kind of a nerd like me, and he kind of is heady like me, and really thinks really deeply. And that was a very cool conversation. So immediately I kind of got on with both of them. And then I met Jordan at a dinner. I want to say it was a few days later. And it was just very clear to me that they were just good guys. And that was something that was really important to me. Like, I mean, one of the things that everybody says that, not a lot of people actually follow through with is, nobody wants to work with assholes, only work with who you want to work with. And but rarely do you have a choice to actually do that. You have to really prioritize it. And that was a really big goal for me at the next point in my career. And it was very obvious that these were good guys, that they had the right intentions with everything that they were doing, and they really just wanted to build something great that they could be proud of, and do it in a way that was going to change the entire space, change entertainment, change the way people think about IP. So that was pretty clear to me from the beginning. And that was the thing that really, like, yeah, the art pulled me in, but the real interest kind of drove from like, hey, can I work with these guys for the next 30, 40 years? And that was kind of how it all went.
No, that's really cool to hear that, like, they're kind of, their minds for these things were so attractive, but that it was so powerful that like you wanted to plant your flag. Like to hear you say like, yeah, is this where I want to be for the next 30 or 40 years? Like, I feel like that's a large discernment moment, and I think that just speaks to all of that. I think that's really cool. I
Well, and
guess
the
I was,
other part, and the only other thing that I'll add to that is just I had been in search of something like Doodles for a long time. And there were a couple times where I had almost left what I was doing to pursue some other entrepreneurial opportunities that didn't work out for one reason or another. But the main reason being, I just didn't see myself doing that for a long time, or with the people that those opportunities actually came with. And the leaving my career when I did made sense to almost no one, right? Like, other than the people that really knew me and like knew that I knew what I was doing. But I had wanted to kind of get out of that corporate hierarchy for a long time and really be part of building something from the ground up. So I had been kind of in that mindset for a few years at this point, and you don't really know what it's going to be until it's like right in front of you and it's so obvious. So my interest in Web3 just started building and building and building as I started making products at Billboard. And there was a point where I couldn't sleep thinking about the tech and the opportunity that was here. And I had never felt that way about other industries that were trending, right? Like, they're cannabis and esports and like all the things that were like really hot, and everybody was leaving their, big corporate jobs to go do startups. Like, I'd never really felt that way about any of that, but blockchain and NFTs, it blew my mind with what was possible. And, and this was the first opportunity after really a year and a half of exploring Web3 at Billboard, that there was something that I could even remotely think about leaving what was like a very steady and kind of accelerating career for myself. It wasn't an easy decision for my family and I. But after meeting the guys and realizing like, hey, yeah, this idea is amazing. The brand is incredible, but it's really going to be about the people. Can the four of us do this for the next few decades? And that's really, it really kind of solidified. It clicks at some point.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's so cool. I think it just takes it. It speaks to the kind of huge amount of conviction that it took, or that was kind of like welling up inside you that led to you making this big conviction play of. And it's funny when we say conviction play, we often talk about someone buying an NFT or something like that. But for you, like
Yeah.
this is a lot more than that, you know. Um,
Oh yeah.
what in doing that and going from kind of quote unquote web 2 to web 3, what were some of the biggest like hurdles that you came across, the things that were unknown that you couldn't have foreseen, and then what have been some of the coolest parts about making that transition as far as you like personally?
So I've never I'd never really been part of something that was truly, truly from the ground up, right? Like when I got to Doodles, it it was a art project. It was a creator brand with all this potential, and the guys and I were trying to start a big business around it. So everything from like the most tedious infrastructure details really needed to be built out. So that was a brand new experience for me. When I got to Billboard, yeah, the business was in the worst position it had ever been in history, but it still had a finance team, it still had an HR team, it still had an IT team, it still had infrastructure. It still had operating agreements, it still had all these different things. So I'd never really been a part of a business at that stage before. So learning how you actually put all that together, because I'd never really been a true to form entrepreneur before. It was like I've learned more in the last 10 months than I feel like I've learned in my entire career. And the cool thing about Doodles is for a company that's a year and a half old, the kind of access, the kind of partners we have, like the rapid ascent that we've been able to create for ourselves, like that, it's unprecedented. It doesn't happen with startups that are this age. So I've kind of been able to flex what I really know while also creating all these new skills for myself along the way. And it's been a really, really rewarding experience. It was definitely, I don't want to like say that it wasn't scary leaving my career to do this, because I had so much conviction and I had so much desire to build something. So for me, I it, it wasn't. You always have that thing in the back of your head, like, man, am I doing the right thing by my family? Is this entire industry going to go like, flames up? And you just kind of like, you don't get anywhere by not taking those risks, right? Like Evan and Jordan did it when they, left Dapper. Like Scott did it when he decided to go full in on Doodles. So it's those big risks that ultimately lead to, and everybody says it, but ultimately lead to the biggest rewards. And frankly, like all the people that are now working at Doodles, like some of them have faced that exact challenge. Like not, most people aren't Web3 native. So, some people were faced with that challenge at some point, and it's good to now have a group of peers and colleagues that, we all kind of took that dive together. So I'm really enjoying the way things are going right now. And I couldn't be more like proud of the decision that I've made and that we've made as a team. So yeah, man, it's feeling very good.
That's awesome. I think you mentioned scaling, and I think Tony had a question about kind of speed and team growth and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I think that obviously, there's a point of self-actualization, like you're talking about, like Doodles, like it was an art project and now we're kind of here, and it's going to be a multimedia company and whatnot. And I think ultimately, like the core, at least a lot of the times when I hear you on Spaces, is you talk about it being an IP, right? And an IP is something that you have experience scaling. And I kind of wanted to just look through your lens and like how you assess Doodles as being a strong IP.
I think of I think the easiest way for people to understand this is just think of everything you see in the media, on social media, on Netflix, on Amazon, at the movie theater, and then look at the art from Doodles and how it's evolved from the beginning. There's nothing that looks like it. There's nothing that looks like it. And it genuinely it genuinely creates joy in people when we present to people that don't know anything about us or anything about Web3. One of the first things that come out of their mouth is, when I look at this, it just makes me happy. Like, that is such a superpower that can't be undermined. Like, we have something in Scott's IP and the way that Golden Wolf knows how to bring IP to life that no one else in the world
Mhm.
has. And I will stand by that 100%. And it will become more and more clear to people as real products start rolling out. And products mean content on social, products mean new apparel, products mean new toys, products mean music videos, products mean all those things. So I just say, when you look at the art specifically, that's really the thing that that is the major differentiator. And I don't mean in Web3, I mean in the world, right? Like, we're not going to
Yeah.
be just competing with brands in Web3. We're going to be going toe to toe for attention against the biggest IP in the world. So, so I think that's really where it starts. And then when you think about what our mission is for delivering a new way for people to think about IP and to interact with IP. Like, this isn't about NFTs being, tradable assets. This is about NFT technology and the blockchain completely rewriting how people engage with IP at all. And the team that started this company, they've been at the first wave of that with CryptoKitties and Top Shot. And then they created Doodles, which was the second wave of that. And every single time they've thought of new ways to create better experiences for people. So for us, it's really just trying to deliver on that promise of the blockchain being a new content format and NFTs being a new content format that's going to create a better value exchange between somebody that follows and interacts and is a part of a brand or an IP than there is today, right? Like, we want it to be better than movies. We want it to be better than comic books. We want it to be better than graphic novels. But I do think it all starts with the art and the fact that there's literally nothing like it out there right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, ultimately, like you're saying, I mean, for as, I guess, corny as it is, like, it is unique, right? And it does evoke emotions. And what we're working with right now, I mean, like you said, there hasn't even been like any like really much more than, I guess, medium to short form content, and people are getting that from still images, which is,
Yeah, I mean,
gosh,
and you've seen some of the animation we've created. You've seen what Golden Wolf has been able to do with other people's IP and really put their own take on it. And the stuff. I mean, you saw, I think, the illustration yesterday, and some of the wearables. Like, all of this stuff is just getting started. Like, Scott's evolving. Like, he's like, the depth of that guy's talent is honestly, and it's insane. Like, and it's not just like his ability to illustrate, it's his ability to actually like think about the IP into different formats. And like, there are so many secret weapons at Golden Wolf, right? Like, one of the coolest things about timeless IP is that it can be delivered in multiple different ways in different formats. Like, we talk about this sometimes. If you think of something like Spider-Man, which is probably one of the most timeless IPs in the world, you think of things like Into the Spider-Verse, you think of the live action stuff, you think of
mhm.
like Spidey and his amazing friends. Like, some of this stuff is for kids, some of this stuff is for young adults and teens. All of that stuff has different kinds of interpretations of what the IP can look like. And I think Doodles has that kind of potential. And just like the creative work, that's like, this isn't really my lane, but the creative work that is being thrown around between our team, Scott and Golden Wolf, is like, it's out of control. Like, you guys see Ingy interacting. Like, it's not just about Doodles, it's about AI, it's about like different formats. Like, it's really exciting times for us right now.
Oh yeah, no, we listened to your fireside chat and NFT Paris with you and Ingy, just kind of jiving on some AI tech and things like that, and it just sounds like it's going to be kind of an explosion of the kind of new wave of content. And I like the way that you put it. You said the blockchain is the new format, which is a really interesting way to think about it. Like, and I think that people maybe don't necessarily see that yet, that the blockchain is going to enable like content to kind of interweave its way through all these platforms and experiences in ways that we can't really even fathom yet. Is that kind of your take on it a little bit?
That's definitely our take on it. I always kind of draw a parallel between Pixar and a little bit of what we're working on, but the technology that ultimately made that company and Toy Story and Cars and all that stuff possible was being developed for 20 years. I mean, it was being invented, right? Like some of it at Lucasfilm, some of it just, by Ed Catmull was the president of Pixar. He started like the bigger company with Steve Jobs. Like part of it was him in college in Long Island, like tinkering with the technology. And his main goal was to make computer animated filmmaking a reality. And they started with like 10-second clips, and then it went to a minute and a half. And then it got to a point where Disney actually contracted. And by the way, Pixar, the business pivoted multiple times in that span. And they were actually selling products as a SaaS model before they actually started making computer animated
Mm.
films. So Disney contracted the first film, and that film was Toy Story. So they had a 3-film deal. And after Toy Story crushed it, like it changed everything. Disney needed to figure out a new partnership with them. And if, who knows what would have happened if, Steve Jobs wasn't unfortunately passing away, if Pixar ever would have sold to Disney, and what Pixar would be today if it didn't get acquired by Disney. Like that the
Wow.
new technology of computer animated filmmaking was what created some of the biggest IP in the world. It changed the entire genre. It changed the whole industry. And I really believe that the blockchain is going to create products and new technologies that is going to have a very similar impact on the way
Mm.
people engage with IP. Like the fact that you can create identity through owning digital goods, the fact that those digital goods can be integrated into your everyday life, some of those things built by the IP franchise that you follow, some of those things built by other partners, but everybody building towards a future where the chain is going to connect numerous environments that's never existed with IP before. And the kind of identity that people are going to have with their favorite IP, you really, like, again, I've said it many times, like you become part of the universe, not just a passive participant. And I really think brands that start in Web3 or do Web3 really well are going to be the brands I think are going to be the most engaged with brands in the world one day.
I think that you articulated that really well because, like you're saying, where like where there was other industries that have popped up, these like trendy industries. This being something that like you through you know being in your career for more than a decade and seeing that that's where it's going and being able to look at that place in history, it's really exciting. I mean, for us, I mean, I don't think a lot of us had any kind of idea why we initially got into the space. Everybody had all different reasons, but gosh, like I remember talking to Mackenzie at NFT NYC, and I was like, "Hey, like, what are you guys looking at, like, as a business? Like, how do you guys plan?" And he was like, "We have our bandwidth right now is focusing on like 6 to 12 months, but we have like 5, 10, 30 years down the line, like these kind of aspirational goals, and that's kind of like how we're actualizing where we're working on. But it's just crazy because like they say, the space is evolving so quickly all the time, and you never know, somebody comes up with an interesting program and it's like, wow, we have to adapt. But with this world building that's going on, like you're talking about how the IP of Doodles is so cross generational, it's very versatile. And like you said, you can make them for different audiences using the same characters.
And I'll tell you
But
right now, like everybody, all the bad press that there is around Web3 and NFTs, everybody's thinking about it. How do you occupy space in people's minds every day and make them want to be with you, right? Like that
the
is,
attention economy.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But the reason the attention economy is it's so fleeting is because there's no incentive for people to want to spend time with you every single day other than being sold to every single day, which is what most brands engage in today. With blockchain and Web3, and it's not just about the technology, it's also the strategy, but blockchain enables the strategy, is making your core community feel like they're really part of your universe. So in the case of Doodles, people's characters, whether that means like in the actual shows or just like building experiences for them on different channels, we want our holders in our community to feel like they're as much a part of the story as whoever our Woody is going to be, whoever our Buzz Lightyear is going to be. So as those characters grow, so do the notoriety and the influence and the impact of the core community members that have been here from the very beginning and that are the biggest engagers of the community. We want to make sure that everybody's growing together and everybody's getting what they want out of this journey that we're taking. So we very much look at Doodles as our Toy Story, and kind of seeing where it's going to go from there. The other thing I think about like franchise intellectual property right now is it's always been like a merchandising strategy where like get Lightning McQueen on a T-shirt and a diaper and sell it to as many people as you can. Like, great business channel for sure. But I think what's emerged recently is that these brands can also be lifestyle brands, right? Like they can make apparel, they can make, other forms of collectibles, they can do in real life events. So like if, you guys have all been to Doodle Pud and South by and NFT NYC, we're as much as an experiential and lifestyle brand as we are a character driven franchise IP. And we want those two things to connect and ultimately create a better experience for the community and for the holders. So I think that's a lot of what people have to look forward to. And I don't think it's something that has been demonstrated really well with any franchise IP to date.
You know,
Right. I agree. It's uncharted
well, I
territory.
think that brings up an interesting point because I think this is a question that a lot of, projects are trying to answer. Like, how do we increase stickiness, with our holders or with, new people coming to the funnel? How do we relate to our holders, do you see storytelling being the way that you kind of connect company to community? And is it more informal? Is it, because I know, like you said, some projects are going merchandising. They're like, hey, we're going to license, this token to make a t-shirt. Like, how's Doodles kind of conceptualizing their relationship community to company?
We're gonna do that too. It's just it's very easy to promise scalability with a concept like that, and it's a very different thing to actually deliver it. So, we know that experience might not be available to every single person that touches the Doodles community, but we do want to make sure that those incentives are there. So we're actually working on programs to do that, where, like, obviously, pieces in the original collection can be licensed into any of our media content. So that is coming. Now, that's
Yeah.
not the only thing that I think drives identity and storytelling. Like, how can, you guys do it? JKB does it. It's amazing. Like, you've built visual identities and social identities through your doodles. How do we give you more tools to tell more stories, to help you create more, and to have what you're working on be as much of a thing that the community looks forward to as what we're working on? So if we have, a branded content being distributed on YouTube and everybody's looking forward to that every single week, people are also looking forward to TGID and JKB and all the other things that are happening within our community. The best way to make this community a thriving thing from end to end is to not have Doodles be the only creators, but how can Doodles empower and deliver tools for all the people that want to create with the brand and create identity for themselves and make great content? How do we help people do that? And you're going to see, like, with some of the product rollout this year, that's like very much our intention and where it's ultimately going to go.
That's really cool. One of the things that Tony and I had been discussing about is, like, what does it mean to be a community member? And some of, like, the three kind of pillars that we kind of came up with were belonging, empowerment, and recognition. So it sounds like you guys are thinking about those same kind of things. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very, like, we also think like the real world can interject with our world, right? Like, I think that's like part of the cool thing about digital ownership and actually, feeling like you're connected to to the environment and to the community in a different way. So it's hard to make people see exactly what the vision is because it is so unprecedented that it
Hmm.
really is hard to understand. It's almost incomprehensible when you really think about it because it challenges a lot of pre-established norms that have existed for decades. So, when we say things like, it's like a membership when you own the original token that's tied to an original sketch of Mickey Mouse and Pikachu. That's not literally what we mean. That's the that's like the analogy that we create to try and have it make sense to people. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, we want utility to be delivered through access. We want utility to be delivered through, community. We want utility to be delivered through being able to pay out licensing fees for people that let us use their doodles in specific formats. So anyway, these are just some of the things that we're working on. But I think you saw with the roadmap, like our intention is very much to have the original collection be the center of everything, and then kind of emanate out from there.
Totally. No, speaking of the doodle map specifically, that was actually what we wanted to ask about next. And so I appreciate you talking about all the stuff about how you're thinking about the community. I think, thanks for saying all that. Um, Looking at the doodle map, and we know, so you have this kind of amorphous vision, this almost inarticulatable vision, but we know that part of that was bringing on all these new hires recently, right? Doodles has hired a ton of people, and it looks like, from everything we've seen, that it's top talent. That was something that was kind of made clear, like hiring top talent. I'm curious, because it sounds like from your journey, you were very attracted to blockchain. You were very attracted to doodles. You engaged in that personal journey down the rabbit hole. How has there been, how do you have you had to bring all these new hires down the rabbit hole with you, or were they attracted in the same way? How has that been going?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's different person to person, but everybody
Hmm.
here sees the promise of blockchain or they wouldn't be here. And everybody here sees the promise of the IP and the vision that's existed from the moment this company started. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. There has been some recruiting effort where there are just legitimate all-stars that need to be pulled from whatever promising environment that they're in to convince them that this is the thing that they should be working on for the next couple of decades. And usually like the people that are easiest to grab are, this isn't like a rule, but it's just kind of something in my experience, are probably not the people you want. Like you want the people that are actually hard to pull away from, the incredible things that they have going on. And what I can say with absolute confidence right now, we have a world class team. And when I say world class team, I don't just mean they have the best resumes in the world. Like they are critical thinkers. Every single one of them is creative. Every single one of them is ambitious. And every single one of them understands that them alone are not the solution. And we are all, and the company is the sum of a lot of great individuals doing a lot of incredible things. We're working on process across the company. We're working on like rules of the road, establishment, all that stuff. But the ingredients that we have at Doodles right now is like it's probably the best team I've ever worked with in my career. And I have taken a lot of pride in the fact that I've been able to build great teams in my career. But this is, I mean, just the pedigree across the company right now is it's like it would be intimidating for somebody that really didn't feel like they belonged. Let's just put it that way.
You heard the man. They're
Don't
cooking.
fall with any
Um,
imposter syndrome.
No, but like for real, like if you had some like if there was anybody even remotely mediocre at the company, they would feel it so fast it would become obvious to everybody right away. And look, like it's not just about it being a culture of winning, but it's really like we have this very unique moment in time that does not come along often, where this new technology is burgeoning, where everyone in the world is thinking about it and everybody in the world is trying to figure out what their lane is. And we know something that the world doesn't know, a handful of us in Web3. And that
mm,
being able to leverage that moment while that window is still open is, it's not going to be open forever. And this is that moment where you truly have the opportunity to create something great. And it takes a very specific type of person to be ready for that call to action. And I'm very happy to say that we are pretty much wrapped after the acquisition of Golden Wolf with hiring key roles. Like, there's still hiring happening. But at the end of this, we feel like I couldn't be more proud of the team that we've put together. And I think everybody at the company is really proud that they're part of this thing. And we're going to see some really incredible stuff.
That's awesome. That's electrifying. So it's super cool. Super cool, man.
Awesome.
And now, I mean, we're here. We're so close to the game that we could practically steal the stat sheet. I kind of wanted to just a little bit before we ended up switching off to a different topic. But just you as the CEO of this company, could you just talk about a little bit like the metrics that you're looking at, like over time? Like, are you thinking about brand recognition? Are you looking like just towards like how much money you make over time? Just just a crack into the side of the CEO's head.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's there's some tangible, there's some intangible. I think we want to make sure that our core community feels really good about the brand, and I think in times where it was a little bit more difficult for us to communicate and create content, it was very obvious that sentiment around the brand was shifting, but I feel like that's turned a bit. And some of this is also relative to the space as a whole. Some people are in this space for reasons that we subscribe to, and some people are in this for reasons that we don't subscribe to. But for the people that we're aligned with, we really want to make them feel incredible about the fact that they tie some of their identity to this. So that's measurable sometimes through, like, how many people have Doodles as their PFP, how many people are engaging with our social media content, et cetera, et cetera. So we do keep an eye on that. We want to bring more people into the community. Whether that means actually having them own NFTs or not is a different kind of conversation. But but we want to acquire new audiences, but we don't want to acquire fluffy audiences. We don't want a follow just because it's a follow. We want people that, actually, when we acquire new audiences, like, the engagement rate stays the same or gets better because people just love the content. People love engaging. People love the vibe that they get from communicating with all these people on this Twitter Spaces right now and in Discord. So audience growth is going to be a really material part of the business. How people are engaging in the actual community, like, what are they doing with our products? How much time are they spending using the products? What are the different use cases that mean something to them? There's a lot of data that we need to secure, especially as Doodles 2 and some of the other things that we're working on roll out. And yes, of course, we're a successful business, and we need to remain successful if we're going to be able to operate on all the opportunities that are available to us. So revenue and profitability, all that stuff is interesting, but doing it in a way where we're continually delivering value, I think, is really important. So all of that stuff are things that kind of occupy my mind every day, and and all of it's being operated on.
I do appreciate you sharing that. I think it's cool because, obviously, like, as community members and holders, I think people, they are like, how do my incentives align with the executive people running the company that I'm supporting? And, it is funny, like, I just have to say it. Like, a lot of people will just, put metrics out, like, themselves are like, how many times is Doodles tweet in a month? And it's like, all right, guys, chill. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, I mean, we built a team, like, and now Bianca's on the call right now. I'm sure you'll get a chance to meet her at some point. But, like, you said bring somebody in to help with marketing and social media, and now we have the person that actually ran at Twitter, right? Like, it's pretty, like, so we are listening, right? Like, and we do have an ability to make an impact. But I think it's really just it's not about just doing things just because you want to do them. Like, we're never ever going to sacrifice quality just because, or sacrifice like relentless prioritization just because there's some fluffy thing that we could be doing that is going to make people feel a little bit better in one moment. Like, the impact of what we're trying to create is a timeless brand that lives forever. So we need to be very careful about the moves that we make, because we have that right now. We really, I've maintained this from the very beginning. I think we have the best brand in Web3 by far. I think we have not been the best marketers recently, but I think that's all going to change. And the thing that is very, very difficult is to create a brand. And we know we have that. So it's really all about building on it.
Integrity in the vision. Absolutely. But so from there, I think we should take a little shift, and I think we should talk about music. Don't you think, Lifts?
Let's talk about music. Tony, what were you wondering?
Yeah, I guess the reason why I want to talk about music, mainly because you used to work at Billboard for quite a long time. And I kind of wanted to just go into, the proverbial looking glass. Like, let's really embody what it means to be a doodler. And let's doodle, right? Like, let's use our imagination and think about what do you think aspirationally could occur with the music wing of Doodles? Do you have any interesting things like a music label, music festival, American Idol kind of show? Like, flex it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been announced for some while that we're building a music arm of the company, whether that's a record label or a platform, like whatever people want to call it. Like, we're going to be creating music. We're going to be creating music in a different way than I think people have seen before. We're going to be making music videos. We're going to be tying artists and partnerships to that music, and it's all going to have a very clear strategy. I can't give too many details because it'll ruin a lot of the surprise for everybody. Um, and it's all I can say is that it's world class. It's best in class. It's not like it's not a joke. Like, what we're working on is really, really deep, and we think it can live for a very long time. Um, and yeah, I mean, I really think music it's going to be a major pillar for the brand as we scale. It's been a pillar for the brand already, and it's going to continue to be that.
No, that's awesome. We're looking forward to all the music content that comes out of Doodles. I mean, it's just, once again, I think you mentioned, like we recently hired Bianca and and obviously Pharrell, like, Pharrell's on the team. Like, the ingredients are so clearly there that I'm just like, whatever comes out is just going to be like wonderful. I have this attitude of like something wonderful is happening, and it's just exciting.
So and just like I don't like to promise, right? But something wonderful is happening, and it's going to be incredible, and it's not going to be the kind of thing where it's something that only a few people hear about, or just our community, or just like the larger Web3 community. Like, when we distribute something, the world is going to see it, the world is going to hear it. So everybody needs to remember that that's the bar, and that does not get delivered overnight. So obviously, like, I didn't come from Billboard to not leverage what is my entire network at this company.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We love to hear it. The world will be hearing the sound of Doodles.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I think something we wanted to ask about. So, you guys are working with Pharrell. You guys have this awesome team, like, and the team needs a home. So you've now planted your flag in Miami. And we know that there's an HQ brewing. What's the status of the HQ? Are you guys excited?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to wrap construction in the next 2 weeks. I was hoping it would be done a little bit sooner, but that's just how it goes. We're probably going to move in sometime in April. There's a few people relocating to Miami. We have a couple people here already, and this is really going to be the Doodles home base. Golden Wolf has offices in New York and London. both of which we visited. They have incredible people, awesome team, awesome vibe in each of those places. So our home bases are really going to be Miami, New York, and London. And yeah, the Miami office is going to be incredible. We hope to have a couple people from the community, come see it and maybe hang out for a little bit. But we're really excited about it. It's going to be a great place to work, to spark creativity, to have creators visit and other public figures visit. And it's going to be a space that I think the entire company and the community, when they see it, on screen, will be pretty proud of.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We're looking forward to it. And it's kind of funny. We were going to ask clearly Miami's HQ, like, is there going to be any satellites? I hadn't even quite thought that, like, oh, essentially with Golden Wolf, you got those, now you have quote unquote offices in New York and London. I think that's super cool.
Oh yeah. And the offices are sick too. Like Golden Wolf itself is a brand. Like, yes, it's an animation company that works with a lot of IP, established a style and a vibe and a legitimate brand. And you guys should get Ingi up here, to talk about some of that stuff on the Meet the Team series. But they, that brand really does come to life in their physical locations. And it's a wonder why they all kind of swim in the same direction and they're able to create the world-class work that they are. And a lot of that does stem from being together in person, getting to experience emotion and creativity. So we're going to try and tap into that and lean into it as much as we can.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. I think that we had a couple of like rapid fire Doodle questions for you if you're game.
Let's do it.
Okay. So first and foremost, most important question, what is your favorite Doodles 2 sock color?
Oh shit. Man, Ingi would hate me for this one because he's part of the yellow sock crew.
Do it.
No, the hollow socks.
Oh,
come on, they're insane.
Yeah.
All right, bougie, bad and bougie.
Yeah.
Okay. On the theme of that, on the theme of bougie Doodles, I was actually curious if you could have any grail. We're talking like the whales, the skellies, something like that. What would you rock as a PFP?
Alien.
Ooh,
that was quick.
100%.
That was quick.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've thought about it plenty. It's they're the best. I mean, I shouldn't say they're the best. They're just like, they're my vibe. I think they're incredible. I love them, but I will have one eventually.
This man has Weath offers out right now. It sounds like.
I have put Weath offers out. They've never been enough.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I just thought the illustration yesterday was really cool too. Obviously, it dropped on like International Women's Day. I think it was awesome. But even the quote unquote, I don't know what to even call it, the touch grass hair is maybe what you would call it, was incredible. I thought that was amazing.
Well, it's kind of what I was trying to get to a little bit earlier about the different interpretations of the IP. Like, I think Sammy's on here too. Sammy actually illustrated that one, and I mean, and like you've all seen like just like the very, very tip of the iceberg, but you can kind of see the evolution of the art, and there's going to be different art in different formats and for different occasions. And I love kind of how Sammy's been able to take the art and put like a cultural and fashion spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool. Like, people are really, really enjoying it. I think like that was like the tweet was one of the highest engagement rates we've had in a while. But yeah, I mean, I think like the art coming out of this team right now it's fantastic. Like, Scott's incredibly happy. Everybody, like, it's very fun right now.
Yeah, and like you're talking about, like that like kind of passing of the torch of like Scott being able to be like, okay, like other people can work on the art with me, like with bringing Bappling on and working with Ingi and the guys at Golden Wolf, Sammy. They're really doing justice to it, and it's cool because it's symbolic about, like you said, with like you add people, then you get comfortable, and then you can really start optimizing efficiency. So
Yeah,
Well,
and like I mean, it's a good point because like someone like Scott that started the IP, you have to imagine that that isn't easy to let other people in, right? Because that's so much of who he is as a
mhm.
person, and the like, but the thing that people need to know about Scott is that he's a collaborator, right? Like he loves that people are interpreting his work differently and bringing it to different formats, and when people have their own vision for it and their own take on it, that's really really special, and that's I think what leads to some of that like timelessness that we're talking about. So Bap and Sammy, Ingy, the whole Golden Wolf team coming on board has been incredible. Scott couldn't be more enthusiastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it was something we even noticed in. It was, I think it was the street one where it's like kind of had the like sneaker kicking out. Even some of the colors were a little more neon, and I just thought that was really cool because I think a lot of this time when people were making derivative artwork, things like that, it was very much like you must use hex code FFA 6Q like pink because that is the palette, and so just to see that expand a little bit uh, was really cool. I thought that was awesome.
I just can't you all see the TV show right now? Like can't doesn't that like you see this art and
Mhm.
how it's gonna live in different formats and on different screens? Like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. No, I mean I think we're all looking forward to it. Uh, we're looking forward to everything. There's so much to look forward to. It's awesome. Oh man, I was just scanning the. We wanted to leave some time towards the end for questions and things like that that the audience put up in the comments. I saw one question from Do Ethereum asking like what bottom half of whale looks like. So very important stuff here. Uh, you know,
What bottom half of whale looks like? I don't know. You duplicated, right? You got the hydro boosters?
I believe they did. I believe they did.
There we go. There we go. I can't give away too much though.
Of course, of course, of course. But yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing too many questions. Oh, this is interesting. So, uh, you know, Nino put up a question about the studio. And so maybe we can ask a little bit more about that. But Nino's specific question was if you could design your own doodly planet, what would it look like?
If I could design my own doodly
Sure.
planet, huh?
It would look like
A CD?
a roused jar of
Uh,
tomato sauce.
that's probably right. Like,
Rarely.
yeah, everywhere there's like rainbow puke and rainbow roads, it would just be pasta sauce. That would be my planet. No, I mean, I like, I really love the Doodles planet. You know what one I'm talking about from Space Doodles, where it's just got the rainbow rings around it, and it's got
The mountains?
yeah, the mountains. Like, I love that planet. Like, I would try and probably like stick to that aesthetic.
No, it's great. It's great. It's awesome. It's awesome. I think that's about all the questions we had. Tony, did you have any additional questions?
Um, no, to be honest, I really just kind of wanted to say thank you so much, Julian. We've like really been excited watching like how meticulous your moves are, and obviously like we just get to see how it manifests in Twitter posts and public appearances. But it was really great to kind of go into your thought process and also really just get to like know you as a person because everybody has a story that's worth telling, and we really do appreciate the opportunity. Like we do have a big affinity for the Doodles team and the brand and the community. We think that they're a really awesome group of people and that you guys have created something that's attracted really, really awesome folks that are super talented. And that's kind of what we do here at TGID. So we're looking forward to getting to meet more of the team on here just so the community can kind of, get to like we said, that one part of community of belonging. We want to be able for everybody to feel like they can be like friends or relate to the team. So we really do.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate the time here. And I mean, if it's one thing I could say to sign off, it's just the, we really do hear everything. We really do, work hard every single day to try and deliver value and a deeper sense of identity that we know the community wants. So I just I want to sincerely say, every decision we make, the community, the original collection is at the center of everything. So just know that, define it however you want, but know that that is very core to our decision-making process and how we build here. And we're really trying to build something that all of us can be proud of. So, keep a lookout. This is going to be a really, really busy year. And yeah, we're excited to start rolling stuff out.
Awesome. Yeah. Julian, I just got to say, yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Your time is incredibly valuable. And so it means a lot for us that you took the time to come spend with us in the community and let us get to know you better. And I'll say, the reason why we're called TGID, thank God it's Doodles, is anytime the idea is that anytime we saw a Doodles illustration or a piece of content, whether that be from the company or the community or whatever in between, it was like a breath of fresh air amongst the muck and the mire of crypto Twitter. And that's why it's TGID. And so you being here today was that as well. So thank you so much.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, all the Doodles that showed up. A couple of us are going to be at South by Southwest, not doing any events or anything like that, but get in the DMs, get in touch, and maybe we can meet up for a drink or a coffee or something. But great hanging today, everyone. We'll talk soon.
Most definitely, and we do want to show you our iconic end to TGID, Doodlifts. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, when you're going about your day, your week, your month, let us not forget. Think not of what Doodles can do for you, but what can you do for Doodles?
That's great.
Thank you guys so much.
I love it.
We'll see you
Take it
soon.
easy.
Peace.